I managed to build non-league side Altrincham to championship winners in 9 seasons without spending a single penny and using a very limited pool of scouting methods, which I am going to show you today. And no, you can't blame that I used a ridiculous tactic, because I used a tactic my girlfriend made me and it was completely and utterly ridiculous. So let's get into this video where I show you the scouting methods to build a non-league club to Premier League. Now, throughout this rebuild with Altrincham, I really tried to not spend any money whatsoever and concentrate on free agent signings, which you can see throughout every single season in this rebuild. We built a team which eventually won the championship. It did take 9 seasons, so it wasn't potentially as quick as you could do it with signings or with loan deals or selling wonder kids, but you can see from the graph it was pretty steady. We had a season of 4th in the National League, won the National League, won League 2, had 3 seasons in League 1 and 3 seasons in the Championship, which means we've actually built a pretty strong squad with some players which have a really good value. Now, there was only 3 scouting methods I used throughout this whole rebuild, and I'm going to show you them now and how we built this super team. Now, number 1 is something which is heavily underutilized by people on Football Manager, and I don't get why. If you come down to your transfers tab and go to Director of Football, you can request from your Director of Football any players to sign on free agent contracts. It's literally ridiculously overpowered. I might not get anything here because we're a month away from having free agents, but we still have these players here: Henry Lister, Joe Rankin-Costello and Rosengarten. We know not a lot about, and what you have to do is simply transfer, offer trial and do a 2-week trial, and within 2 weeks you'll understand everything about Otto Rosengarten, who has had a pretty decent career in Sweden, being a Premier Division player. Last season grabbing a 7.06 average rating. Could have just found the centre mid to come into the Premier League and be a rotation option or an absolute superstar. You need to click on every single one and offer them a trial. Exactly the same here for Joe Rankin-Costello. He has been recently released from Blackburn Rovers at 32 years of age. Might not quite make it, but is certainly worth finding out. And finally is Harry Lister. Again, might not make it, but we might as well offer him a trial and find out. It's completely free. It costs nothing in scouting whatsoever, which is why you can do this all the way down to non-league, and is a really good way of building up knowledge of players and building up a really good squad. And that is method number 1 that I used. Now, I say in this rebuild I only used 1 method. I actually used 3 methods. I actually used 4 because I was doing a homegrown in Manchester sort of vibe as well. So I did also sign players from United and Manchester City, but we don't go too far away from them to find our next players that we are looking for. We are looking for players whose contracts are expiring in the next month that play Premier League football, and simply scroll down, right click, transfer, offer trial, offer 37 players trials to join your club, and you will know everything about them in 2 weeks. Now, if I go forward just a couple of days to show you guys exactly how this works and how I would dictate if players come, stay, or I even want to know about. I would come to the squad once they are in on trial. I would hide the players that are in the matchday squad, and I would sort this by potential. So straight away, there is a bunch of players here which we know are worth knowing more about. I wouldn't instantly go and sign Dare McGregor. We don't know too much about him. Actually, we do know a lot about this guy, but Isaac, we don't know everything about him. We don't know all of his coaching summaries, etc. He might have changed from our old reports on him, and we want exacts in his figured. Someone like Dare McGregor, actually a really good left winger and would come straight into this team as an attacker winger, so instantly found someone there. But the players that you don't really want to spend too much time on are all the players down here which have pretty poor potential and don't look great. So instantly terminate them 8 trials. That will enable you to go back to the scouting, go back to the Premier League again, and offer another, say, 18 people trials. And eventually you'll get to a maximum of 30 players that you can have in on trial they are interested in learning about. I wouldn't be too dismissive of certain players. Maybe someone like Alex Jones, who's 23, we know all about. You can get rid of him. But again, there's players here. I mean, eventually we signed this guy, Zane Blake, probably in this season as well, who was unbelievable for us and played for us all the way until we won the Champions League, in fact, and was absolutely brilliant. And we found him just here from doing this exact method. Again, I probably found him in this exact way. Otto has come into the club, obviously using the method of asking the director of football, and we can see he is pretty damn decent straight away. Again, I want to know everything about him. It's good to know he's consistent. It's good to know he's fairly well-rounded, but we need to know more if he is to join this club. If you are using this method, you have to be very careful with who you sign. It has taken us a long time to get to a point now where even now we are £2.5 million in debt. And we have been so stringent on the players we choose to sign because we simply have never had the money. Even this season in the Championship, if we sort this by salary per annum, Fulham have 91 million. We had just 9.2 million, finished down in 23rd place in the amount of money we were spending because that's all we had as a club. We managed to win the playoffs against Sunderland, which is absolutely fantastic. We had the top goal scorer in Ethan Wheatley, who was signed using this method, released from Middlesbrough. Now I also do this method as I'm lower down, probably from League 1 to League 2, National League and below. I will also include going to England, going to there, and including Championship players, so we want to know about them. But once you get to the Championship and the Premier League, you just want to know about this Premier League method here. This is absolutely golden and is absolutely fantastic. Now, if you want to know how I made signings from this point to winning the Champions League, I have released a video of signing hidden regens. I'll try remember to link it up there. It is a very similar thumbnail to this, and that video is fantastic. And I'm going to show you how to basically change the way you play Football Manager and build a Champions League winning side, spending literally no money. But next up is my other scouting methods, and this one is also really, really good to know. We are looking at youth appearances. Now, if we come here to international, you can have youth appearances and international caps. For non-league football, League 2 and League 1, you want to concentrate on youth appearances. Now, something you're looking out for, especially in England, is that they are English youth appearances, because we aren't going to have too many ESC slots. We can't really get any like work permits, etc., because England is really annoying thanks to Brexit. Finding players is quite difficult. We'll increase the age here up to 30 because at this point, again, if you're a non-league, League 1, League 2 club, you're looking for players for 1 or 2 seasons. We are looking for English players straight away. We can see we have a few there. We can go down and find Irish players. There is a bunch there. Again, you want to bring them in on trial, understand what they are about, and then we can find Northern Irish players, of course, and Scottish players, and finally Welsh players. Now, there is some which you will also be able to find who are just homegrown at club. So if we tick this here as homegrown at nation, between 0 and 21, we want and instead of all. So we want them to have at least 1 year of appearances and be homegrown at club. And in fact, we've got a whole bunch more here that you can go out and sign. Because they're homegrown, they don't need work permits. This was also massive for us to get to the level we got to in the end. It took us a long time, but it's definitely worth it and is a really fun way to play the game. I mean, you can see here from our recommendations, I have pretty much got all the knowledge I can on most of these players already, thanks to previous seasons, etc. You will get some players which are completely not worth it. Just remove them from your terminate their trial, and move on. You don't need to worry about scouting every single player. It's just finding the best players. And that is literally how I built a club from non-league to where we are now. We are going into the Premier League, and it hasn't taken us a ridiculous amount of effort. I've asked the director of football to help us find free agent signings. I've signed free agents myself from scouting youth appearances players and players released from the Premier League and the Championship, and I built a Championship winning side. Again, you can't blame the tactic. I used one of my misses. There was a libero at centre-back in non-league, people. If you haven't seen the non-league rebuild, that'll be linked somewhere on the screen right now. It is an absolute blast, and I would fully recommend watching that. There'll be loads of little hints and tips inside that video as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.